Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Glory Glory Man United podcast. I'm your host, as always, Kyle Quinn, and joining me today is a special guest, Jay Motty from Stretford Paddock. It's been a little while. How's it going, mate?
Yeah, it has been a little while. It's good, man. Apart from United, although we did win at the weekend, so we can't be too downhearted. But yeah, it's been all right. I'm hoping against hope that we might bring in another player during this window. I know we've got Patrick Dorgu over the line, which is a bit of a bonus. But I still think we're short, and I'm still worried that the next 4 months is going to be a bit of a slog. Yeah.
So we haven't spoken since August, and it's fair to say a lot has changed since then. We've obviously changed the coach, and so I wanted to get your thoughts on Ruben Amorim so far. What have you made of him?
I like him. I like the way he goes about his business in terms of his press conferences, the way he carries himself. I like the fact that he's sticking to his guns tactically. I know he's had some criticism over it, but listen, he's played that 3-4-2-1 system at Sporting and had success with it. That's why we brought him into Manchester United, because of the success he had there. So for him to deviate from that, or for him to say to the players, actually, this isn't working, we'll go back to what you know, I think would be a mistake. I think the players have to get on board with what he's trying to do, whether that's tactically, whether that's the effort they need to show in training, or their attitude and their mindset. It's his way. That's his way of doing things. And it's similar to the way that Sir Alex Ferguson handled things when he came in. He got rid of a few players that were popular, the likes of Norman Whiteside, the likes of Paul McGrath. He changed the culture of the club. I'm not saying Ruben Amorim is another Sir Alex Ferguson, but that's the benchmark. That's what you should be aiming for. And it's a good example of what you should be doing. So I think results-wise, there's no getting away from the fact that, especially at Old Trafford, the results haven't been great, and he's got to take some responsibility from that. I don't think it's all his fault by any stretch of the imagination, but I don't think you can say, well, the manager's got nothing to do with the football results, because that's ridiculous. But I sympathise with him. I can see he's inherited a squad that is a bit lacklustre. You've got too many players that just aren't good enough, to be honest with you. Plus, he's trying to implement this new system for, as he termed it, there might be some short-term games, some problems, a bit of suffering, I think he said. But long term, it's the answer, because the players that can be trusted will get used to the system he's trying to play. And I think we've had some good results as well. There's no, it's not all been doom and gloom. We beat Manchester City, the Etihad, which, okay, they were in a bit of a rut at the time, but it's still beating the Premier League champions at their ground. We beaten Arsenal, knocked them out of the FA Cup, and we were very close to beating Liverpool at Anfield. I think it was a well-earned point. So he's done okay. He's done. I think results-wise, he's done okay. Probably too many defeats, but in terms of what he's trying to do, I like it. And I think he's definitely the right man for Manchester United. And I just hope that the board can back him properly. See Dorgu come in, who can hopefully fit into that left wing-back position. The important thing now is in the summer, which is going to be the big transfer window, we do whatever deals need to be done to bring in the players that Ruben Amorim needs, because we're woefully short in the attacking department. It's obvious for everyone to see.
Yeah, if we're playing away from home and we're playing one of the big teams, we're fine. But when we're playing at Old Trafford, we're absolutely garbage. And the manager's reason for that is that the players are nervous playing at home. But I also think that it's because when we're at home, the onus is on us to play attacking football, and we leave too many gaps in behind. And that's why we can see goals at home. When we're playing away from home, we're probably a wee bit more defensive, and we're not conceding goals away from home, and all we're needing is 1 or 2 goals to win a game. So do you think that maybe is a reason as well?
Possibly, yeah. I mean, it would seem logical. I just feel it's just really baffling and frustrating what's gone on at Old Trafford this season, and it's continued on from last season. There was 2 seasons ago, Old Trafford became a fortress. You look at the results we had. We beat Liverpool, City, Arsenal, Barcelona. We're beating everyone at Old Trafford. And this was a season where, away from home, we had some bad results. I think we had that record, didn't we? Was it 1 point against the top 9 or something? So it wasn't like we were flying away from Old Trafford. But at Old Trafford, we certainly had the measure of everyone. However, the last couple of seasons in particular, it's been bad. And we've seen the likes of Bournemouth. We've seen Newcastle. More recently, I know we won, but I thought the Southampton game was terrible in terms of the level of performances. And then, obviously, Brighton got a result too. So, in answer to your question, is it the way that teams are coming at us, or that we're set up in a different way at Old Trafford? Possibly. I think the manager's mentioned about nerves. I think he tried to push back on that slightly, didn't he, and say it's not. I think he said some of the players are nervous. Sorry, you're right. He did say nervous, but then someone asked him if he was nervous, and he said no. He was a bit frustrated, was what he said he was, which I share with him. I've got frustrations as well. But I think part of the problem is teams are coming to Old Trafford with that belief. In the past, teams come to Old Trafford and they probably thought, we'll be lucky to get a point here. But you saw it. I go back to, even more recently, the Rangers game. Rangers come to Old Trafford and you can see them growing in confidence as the game goes on because they're actually realising, do you know what? This United team isn't the United team of old. This is a United team that is there for the taking. That fear factor has gone from Old Trafford. I think, when I say it's gone, I think the only fear factor there is at Old Trafford is amongst the Manchester United players and maybe even some of the fans as well. And I count myself including that. We have that sort of anxiety now when teams are at Old Trafford. It's going to be another one of those days. So you've got to try and get the confidence and the belief there. Maybe, it is something to do with the tactics, like you mentioned as well. But ultimately, you just got to, I know this might sound like a bit of a daft suggestion, but you've got to get that swagger back. You've got to get that confidence. You've got to get that time where you walk onto that pitch as a Manchester United player at Old Trafford. You think, this is our gaff. You ain't coming here and you ain't getting anything. Because that seems to have gone. We need to get that back.
Yeah, if we can continue our decent away form and then have a return to Fortress Old Trafford, then once again we'll be challenging near the top of the table and not down in the bottom half. If we had lost that Fulham game, we would have been 10 points off 10th position, which is pretty galling. But we managed to win the game. And yeah, we do get those surprise results away from home. Beating Fulham away from home shouldn't be a surprise, but it was. We've, as you said earlier, we've won away to City, Liverpool, Arsenal on penalties. So I'd rather play these teams every week, the way things are going. But if that Fulham game had been at Old Trafford, we probably would have lost 3-1. That's just the way things are going at home. It is pretty shocking considering people are being charged £66 a ticket now to watch United at Old Trafford, which is an absolute disgrace. I mean, Jim Radcliffe got a bit of an earful the other night when he was leaving the ground. He had to quickly roll the window back up because I think he initially thought they wanted a photo, but it was certainly the opposite of that, and he made his escape. But yeah, Amorim, I do like the cut of his jib. Yeah, he's a very self-confident guy. He talks a good game. He's brutally honest, which every single supporter loves. I felt at times when Ten Hag was talking to the media, he was delusional. He was saying we were playing well when we were garbage, and I just couldn't accept that at all. And he's been, Ten Hag was accused of being a bit soft with Marcus Rashford, whereas Ruben Amorim certainly has not been at all. I mean, we haven't seen Rashford for 11 games now, I think. I think Ten Hag did dish out, a couple of disciplinary measures on Rashford, but then he'd be straight back in for the next game. So it wasn't really much of a punishment. This is one hell of a punishment, isn't it? Rashford being out of the team so long.
Yeah, definitely. He's obviously set his standards, and Rashford's not living up to them. Now, look, it seems to me now it's completely untenable, the relationship between Marcus Rashford and Ruben Amorim. I think there's reports, was it James Jackson in the Guardian yesterday, sorry, not in the Guardian, saying that they're not even on speaking terms other than when Amorim addresses the squad. You could see the comments after the game against Fulham, where I think he said he'd played the goalkeeping coach basically ahead of any player doesn't try, meaning Rashford, because it was a Rashford question. That can't have gone down well with Rashford. He's made it clear, Ruben Amorim, that Rashford isn't part of his plans and that he isn't performing in training. And I almost feel like now, I think it's got to the point now where if Rashford was to turn it around and start trying really hard in training, which he should have done earlier anyway, to be honest with you, it shouldn't have got to this point. But even if he was to do that, I don't think it'd be enough. I think he's done, and I think the best course of action now is to move Marcus Rashford on. And no, sometimes managers do that. I mentioned earlier, Fergie came in and there was big names that he got rid of. Ten Hag, Ronaldo, I think, was one of the players that he got rid of straight away. And sometimes you have to make those decisions. You have to say, look, okay, is this a player that's performing for me? No. And if Marcus Rashford isn't even trying in training, then it's right to move him on. My only worry is we can't get him moved on, that no one comes in for him and pays the wages we need to pay, even if United do eat up some of the wages, because you need him out of the club, to be honest with you, because if he stays around, you've just got a bad situation turning into an even worse one, because then what do you do? you've got a player who's on 300 odd grand a week, who's not getting on with the manager, who's still training, but not part of the plans. It just doesn't make any sense. He needs to go in January, and we got 4 days left of the transfer window. Time's running out.
Yeah, one thing that I'm worried about is that we could sell Alejandro Garnacho, who's now part of the manager's starting 11. And he was obviously a player that was left out of the Manchester Derby on December 15th as well. But he's back in and part of the manager's plans and trying to adapt to that left number 10 role. So we can't possibly find ourselves in a situation where we sell Garnacho, who's in the first 11, and keep Rashford, who's not part of the manager's plans. That would just be an absolutely ridiculous and ludicrous situation, Jay, wouldn't it?
It would. I mean, I think the PSR issue is just sort of changed the whole footballing landscape on it. It's made it all so different now that a lot of teams are having to consider selling players they probably wouldn't want to sell, youngsters, academy players, because it's all profit. But if you are going to spend money, if you are going to bring in players, we need to bring in players. We need a striker. I want us to keep Garnacho, but we need a goal scoring striker. We haven't got one at the minute. So you're right. In an ideal world, you'd sell Marcus Rashford, get 40 million for him, and then go out and buy a Victor Gyökeres or whatever with that money. But I don't know if that's an option at the minute. I'm hoping in an sort of the dream situation would be Marcus Rashford goes out on loan in January, because I don't think realistically anyone's going to come in for him with a bid. He does well, and then he gets a permanent move in the summer. We use that money and we bring in the players, or part of that money is used to bring in players that we need in an attacking area. Because I'm really, really worried about our lack of goals. There's a lot of things going wrong at Manchester United, but the main thing for me is just our lack of goals. That's the sort of overriding issue that needs to be addressed, and I don't think you're going to address it with the players we've got. I think we need someone to come in.
Yeah, I think one of the big candidates to come in as a new number 9 signing for United, and you know what I'm going to say, is Victor Gyökeres from Sporting Lisbon. I can see that one happening in June. What do you think?
That seems like the most obvious one, doesn't it? Because he knows the manager. The manager took him, I think, to Sporting. He's shone there. I think he's got, I can't remember his record. He's basically more than a goal a game this season. So he's absolutely flying. He fits into the system that Ruben Amorim wants to play, because he has done at Sporting, because, again, it was the manager's system that we've now got at Manchester United. And the figures being suggested, I think he's got a buyout clause of around, 60 million, which is doable. It's not ridiculous. If it was something like 140 million, you'd probably go, okay, for a 25, 26-year-old, whatever he is, that's probably too much. But 60 million quid for a proven goal scorer who's still got at least 3 or 4 years, probably at least 4 years, sorry, at the top level, probably more, probably at least 5, it's worth it. So the only question is, will he come to a non-Champions League club? Because unless we're in the Europa, which we could do, then we're not going to be in the Champions League. And that might put him off, because he is 26. Is he going to want to spend any of his remaining years not playing in the Champions League if he can help it? And I've no doubt there'll be other clubs in for him. I'm just hoping the relationship between him and Ruben Amorim could be the deciding factor.
Yeah, there are other names in the frame as well. Of course, Victor Osimhen is being mentioned as a potential target in the future. And obviously, there's the likes of Benjamin Sesko out there as well. I think Arsenal are interested in him. So, again, there would be competition. But you'd expect competition for the best centre forwards in Europe. And, 60 million would be a lot of money if you were buying a right wing back. They'd be saying, wow, that's a bit risky paying that kind of money. He'd really have to work out. But 60 million for a striker who scores a lot of goals, that looks pretty cheap, doesn't it? So I'd be happy enough for that deal in the summer. But you mentioned Patrick Dorgu, who seems to be on his way to Old Trafford as the first major signing of the Amorim era. And your friend Laurie Whitwell and his colleague James Horncastle have just said today that there's been a broad agreement has been reached with Lecce, 30 million euro guaranteed plus 5 million in add-ons, majority of which are hard to achieve. So I don't know too much about him, but I've seen a wee bit of him, and I know that he's versatile. He seems to score goals. I imagine he's going to slot in at that left wing back position, but I've seen him play a right wing for Lecce as well. He's already scored for Denmark, and he's only had 4 caps. I think he scored in his debut for Denmark against Switzerland, and he's a few goals for Lecce this season as well. I have to say that if it was me making the choice, it would have been Alvaro Fernandez coming back on a very, very cheap deal for United, because having watched him in the Champions League this season, he's been really impressive, even against Barcelona as well. He provided the assist for the first goal, and he was up against Yamal, and he did really well. So he looks like someone who could play in a left wing back role. But I'll have to bow to the superior knowledge of Christopher Vivel and Jason Wilcox in this one. They've obviously identified this player and think that he fits the system. So what have you made of him, and what have you learned about him so far?
I mean, I've spoken to a few people who've watched him, and they see him as himself very exciting, attacking type of player, can play in a few different positions. I mean, he's obviously the type of player we need. We need someone who can play at wing back. We need someone who can sort of carry the ball from deep and knows the sort of, I'm not going to say knows, but you'd assume can fit into this system quite easily, because we've had players who are just struggling. You look at Diogo Dalot on that left wing back role, and he's probably having his worst ever season for Manchester United. I know he had a good game at Anfield, but he's not having a good season. I think Mazraoui's done okay on the right hand side when he's been there. Diallo's done okay on the right hand side when he's been there, but you'd arguably want him a bit further up the pitch. So someone like Dorgu seems to make a lot of sense. And from speaking to people like yourself and one or two others who we've had on the channel who've watched him, they think he's a good fit for Manchester United. Now, look, he's only young. I think he's 20 years old. It can be quite daunting coming to Manchester United. The expectation, the things we've spoken about earlier, the crowd and everything else, but you have to put, like yourself, a little bit of faith in the likes of is it Vivel, the scout, and also the manager. You'd assume would have signed off on this deal as well, that they know what they're doing, because Manchester United needs to bring in players like this, like that can fit in the system we're trying to play, that are specifically for positions, rather than just bringing in someone and trying to shoehorn them in. So I think this sounds like a positive signing to me, and also the numbers make sense. Is it 30 million euros, which is what, about 25 million quid? I think that's okay for a player that's probably going to play in Manchester United's first team. I don't think we've done enough of these type of deals. I think in the past we've gone 50, 60, 70, 80, 89 million or whatever. I think it's that sort of bracket we need to be looking more at, the sort of 30 million euro mark, because especially for a young player, worst case scenario, even if he doesn't work out, he's still going to get some money back for him, and you've not spent a fortune. And if he does work out, then you've got a bit of a bargain.
Yeah, I suppose it's a bit like the Daniel James deal, where it didn't really work out in the long run, but we made a profit on him because he was such a cheap signing. So, but hopefully he does work out. That's what we really want. Yeah, and that seems to be what we're doing now. We're doing these types of non-obvious deals, whereas in the past we're going for Galacticos who are over the age of 30, far too many of them. Nothing wrong with the odd one, but there was far too many at Old Trafford, and they either weren't working out at all, or they were only good for one season. And Casemiro is an example of that as well. But lo and behold, we're about to sign a left wing back, and Luke Shaw is back in training. But I wouldn't be surprised if he plays about 15 minutes against Crystal Palace, and then that's him gone again for another 6 weeks.
Yeah, I'm not holding my breath with Luke Shaw, to be honest with you. And it's no disrespect to him, but he's missed, what is it, about 60% or something of the last 5 seasons? I mean, you can't rely on a player like that who's just constantly injured. It's a similar thing with Mason Mount. A good player and probably fit into this system that Ruben Amorim wants to try or wants to, to play. But he's just injured all the time. So I think in the summer it's time for Manchester United and Luke Shaw to part ways, and hopefully with Dorgu there. And don't forget as well, we've got the kid, is it Leon, coming in. Then we should have some other options.
Yeah, I just wanted to touch on that. So another friend of your show, Academy Scoop, brought the exclusive yesterday that Man United have reached a full agreement to sign Arsenal defender uh, Ayden Heaven, which is an interesting name. I think there's going to be
The
a lot of
puns write
puns.
themselves there, don't they?
Yeah,
Just
yeah,
you can imagine a journalist just like, yes, give me those
yeah,
shoes. Oh, and when United lose, it'll be from heaven to hell, and when we win, it'll be, he's in United in heaven. It's just so easy, isn't it? It's just, you know what I mean? Like, it's all there for you. So yeah, he's certainly, name wise, from a journalism point of view, he seems like the real deal. Look, you mentioned it. I'm glad you mentioned Finn, because he broke the story. He did. I was speaking to him the other night, and he was doing his due diligence on it. He said, look, just to give you a heads up, I'm not going to run this yet. I need to just double check a couple of things, but it looks like it's happening. He checked a couple of things like all good journalists should do. Got it backed up and then ran the story. Then a lot of other people jumped on the back of it, but it was his exclusive. And it sounds like, from what I spoke to Finn about him yesterday, I didn't know anything about him or much about him. Sounds like a real positive move for Manchester United. And I always think you can sort of tell a little bit about a player by the reaction of the fans of the club he's leaving. And I've seen a few Arsenal fans who are annoyed about this one because he had a bright future. He's got a bright future. They saw him as someone who could be a future star for Arsenal. And you throw in the fact that we've got Chido Obi recently as well. That's two young, highly respected players, highly thought of players at Arsenal that we've managed to get. And let's not forget as well, I think with Chido, Bayern Munich were looking at him. I think with Ayden, Heaven, Barcelona were looking at him, and Eintracht Frankfurt, and Arsenal wanted to keep him as well. So he had other big name suitors, but he's chosen to come to Manchester United. Now you throw in the likes of Godwill Kakonke. Also, we brought in the kid as well, Sekakone. There's a good group of young players there. There is. It feels like Manchester United have got a real sort of core of talented youngsters. So I'm hoping that this will be part of the new sort of ethos, if you will, of trying to get youngsters in where we can. And even if we do have to get them from other clubs, there's nothing wrong with that. Not every Manchester United Academy player joined the club at 12. Some players joined at 16, 17, 18 and went on to absolutely smash it. So I think this is a positive move for Manchester United. Early days, we'll have to wait and see how it pans out. But certainly in terms of his ability and his talent, I mean, there's a reason Arsenal fans are fuming right now.
It's quite impressive that United are able to go out there and snap youngsters from the likes of Arsenal, and when they have competition from Bayern, Barcelona, Frankfurt, and the players choosing to come to United, somebody's doing something right in that recruitment department for the academy, and that the player wants to come and join United despite our first team being so poor at the moment. So I'm very impressed by that. Uh, Finn also said that he's considered a first team signing and will provide competition for Lisandro Martinez. So looks like he's going to go straight into the first team squad.
Yeah, I think that might have been part of the reason he was willing to sign for Manchester United. And let's not forget as well, he was in and around the squad for Arsenal. I mean, he wasn't getting, many minutes or anything, but he was, I think he'd been in the match day squad a few times, and he played pre-season, obviously played against Manchester United, didn't have the greatest game, but I don't think we can hold that against him. So it makes sense that you're saying, look, if you're going to come to Manchester United, you will be getting opportunities here, you will be getting some minutes. Lenny Yoro was far more established when we got him than Ayden, Heaven, but similar age, or if it might be identical age actually. So I get this as a bit of backup, give him some minutes. You've just got to handle him in the right way. I don't expect him to be starting week in, week out, even if Lisandro Martinez was injured. But I do think he will get minutes. He'll get an opportunity. Maybe we might even see him feature at some point against Leicester, or maybe depending on what happens in Europa, further down the line in Europa. But it seems like a positive move, this one. And yeah, if he can get a little bit of game time this season, maybe next season we'll see a lot more of him.
Yeah, we do like a fixture against Leicester this season. I think we're going to play them as many times as it is possible. I mean, both both cups and obviously in the league twice. And Ruud van Nistelrooy is going to be in the unique position of managing United against Leicester and Leicester against United all in the same season. That's amazing, isn't it?
Three times as well, which is weird. It's like, I think if you look at Ruud van Nistelrooy's managerial record in England, I think he's only managed about, is it something like 12 or maybe 14 games, and 4 of them will have been, 3 of them will have been between Manchester United and Leicester, which is just really weird. I mean, he only managed, how many did he manage at United? 4, and 2 of them were against Leicester. So it is just, I think, was it 4? Yeah. I think it's just one of those little quirks, isn't it? I just hope for once that he's on the losing side.
Yeah, he should be. I mean, you'd like to think we could win an FA Cup 4th round tie to Leicester.
You'd think so, wouldn't you? But they've got their act together a little bit. They've lost 7 then until recently, where they won against Spurs, at Spurs, I think, as well, after going behind.
Everybody beat Spurs.
That as well. Yeah, well, almost everybody. So yeah, it's it's a little bit disconcerting that they seem to have got their act together. But you're right, we should beat Leicester at Old Trafford. Come on.
Yeah, I know home form is pretty poor, but yeah, we should be winning that comfortably. But because we did in the previous two games at home to Leicester this year, so let's do it again. So the next fixture is our final Europa League phase match against they're now called FCSB, and apparently that's very contentious. A lot of the supporters prefer the old name of Steaua Bucharest, the 1986 European Cup winners. And I think there's been a bit of a legal battle over the name of the team. But I think United have to win this, because even if we draw, there's still a scenario that if results go against us, that we won't finish in the top eight. We're currently fourth with 15 points, and they are eighth with 14 points, only a point behind. And obviously, you go all the way down to Olympiacos in 12th, and they're still in with a shot of qualifying automatically for the last 16. So I don't want to be relying on other teams. I want to go there and get the win and get the job done and save ourselves those two playoff games in February. As I say, they're only 1 point behind us. They've got some decent results in Europe themselves this season, but they did lose 4-0 at Ibrox to Rangers. So they really should be a team that we should be beating, Jay, if you look at that.
Yeah, definitely. We should be beating them. You're right. The issue you've got with Manchester United this season, there's been a few games, well, more than a few, where we've said we should be beating them. We should be winning this. This shouldn't be an issue, and we haven't. So I just hope we don't make hard work of it. I think if we turn up, we'll beat them no matter what they do. If Manchester United turn up and play as well as we can play, they're not going to have enough for us, even if they have the best game they've ever had. I think a strong United side will beat them. The only question is, if United don't turn up, if we do have an off day, or if we have one or two players that aren't in the races, can they take advantage of it? So, look, we've struggled to get any momentum going this season. It's like every time we have a good result, we have a bad one. We've had it so many times. You look after the Etihad, the results were poor. You look after the Arsenal game. This is a bit of an opportunity now. Just let's try and get some momentum going. We've just beaten Fulham at their gaff. Let's keep going. Let's try, and build on this. I think remind myself of the sort of the Man United results, because, sorry, just bear with me, because I think, yeah, we're just having a look here now. We've always had this issue on with this season where we've just not been able to put a bit of a run together. But now, I mean, it's not much of a run, but Rangers and then Fulham get another win, 3 wins on the spin, then you can go into the Crystal Palace game with a bit of confidence, because the Crystal Palace game at Old Trafford's another big one, because our home form is so poor in the Premier League. We need to fix that. We need to fix that this weekend. But first things first, let's get the 3 points in the Europa.
Yeah, and it's an away game, so that always gives me hope. We won our last away fixture to Victoria Pilsen, although we left it very late. We were very, very poor in that game, and we got 2 late goals from Hoyland, who I don't think has scored since. And I think Xerxes is a better footballer than Hoyland, I would say. Some people might not agree with that, because he's pretty decent when he comes deep. He can hold the ball up and he can bring others into play. His passing range is pretty good at times. Whereas Hoyland is just offering absolutely nothing. He's losing the physical battles with the defenders. He ain't getting any shots on goal. He ain't running the channels like he should be, which is what he's good at. And he's went well over 10 games now, I think, without scoring a goal. And it's the third time that he's had a spell like that since he arrived, and it doesn't seem to be happening for him. At the moment, it looks as if Xerxes might be the one who stays beyond the season, and Hoyland might be the one who's moved on in the summer.
Yeah, it's been weird, I think, with our strikers this season, because obviously Xerxes got a goal on his debut, looked useful, but you could see there was a few flaws there. But I think you could see why he'd been brought in. Then he struggled. Then obviously there was the issue where he got booed. I didn't agree with that, obviously. Then you had Hoyland, who was injured for the early part of the season, came back in, and people were like keen to see him back in. He has obviously got a few goals, but not enough. And now he's having this horrible spell, and his performances seem to be pretty much as bad as they've ever been in a United shirt. You look at the last couple of games. So it's a massive issue. It really is. I feel like both our number 9s, if you can call Xerxes a number 9, I think he calls himself a 9.5 or something, are flawed. My hope is that there's a player in Hoyland. We saw him get 16 goals last season, which isn't, it's not easy. Xerxes, again, I hope there's a player there, but I do worry. I just think either way, you need to go big in the summer. You need to buy, when I say go big, you need a striker in the summer. But if we don't get one in January, which I don't think we will, these two have got to step up between now and the summer, because Rashford, he's not going to play even if he stays, and he isn't really an option. So we need goals, and we need these two to provide them. Neither of them have been prolific in that sense in their careers. I think when you look at Højlund when he was at Atlanta, I think was it about 12 goals or whatever in his last season before we bought him. You look at Xerxes, similar numbers at Bologna, but they're capable of scoring goals and they're capable of bringing in those around him. I just wish that with Højlund, he just get involved in the sort of the business end of the pitch a little bit more. He's too deep. He's getting involved in scuffles closer to the halfway line than he is to the opposition area. And I don't think he's been helped with great service, but he's also not doing himself any favours. Xerxes is slightly better positionally, isn't taking the chances he's getting, and he's very up and down with his performances as well. So it's not great at the minute with our options. I just hope that these players can start living up to the players that we've seen in the past, especially with Xerxes, more at Bologna than at Manchester United. But with Højlund, we saw it last season. He had that great run around this time last year where I think he scored, was it 7 goals in 6 games, whatever. We need him to start scoring again, because regardless of your performances and when you're doing well or whether you put in a shift, whatever, if you're a striker, you need to score goals. That's what you're there to do. And at the minute, neither of them are.
Yeah, we're heavily reliant on the captain, Bruno Fernandes, and of course the star of the show, Amad Diallo, to get goals. If they don't, then we're probably relying on a goal from a corner or something from Harry Maguire, or we're relying on Martinez, the ping one from distance.
Harry Maguire, if we're relying on Harry Maguire for goals, then we're in serious trouble. How many goals has Harry Maguire ever scored for us? That'd be a new low point. And listen, I like Maguire, but yeah, if we're relying on Harry Maguire, he's even scored this season. I think he has he? He's got. Sorry, he's got one. Forgive me. He has got a goal this season. Silly me. So yeah, he's got 1 goal last season to go with the 4 that he got last season and the 0 that he got the season before that. So yeah, if we're relying on Harry Maguire for goals, we are in serious trouble. We need our strikers to score goals, not Harry Maguire.
Yeah, he does have that ability to score from a set piece. Although sometimes I think it was the Rangers game where he missed a free header. I don't know how he didn't score, but he does have that in his locker. He can score from set pieces. Just looking to see how many goals he does have overall for Manchester United. He has 12, would you believe? So it's actually more
in how
than
many
you'd
games?
think. 228.
Right, well there you go then. What's that? That's a goal every what? What is that? A goal every 20 games or something? Yeah. I think we might need to look elsewhere for our goals, to be honest with you, bro.
Hello, Lisandro Martinez in the last month or so is providing goals and assists from the back.
I think 4 goal involvements in the last month. Something like that,
yeah,
which isn't, or that might have just under Ruben Amorim. Yeah, listen, scored a great goal. At Anfield, scored a slightly fortuitous goal at Fulham, but yeah, he's weighed in with a couple. I mean, look, if your defenders can get you goals, great. If it's all well and good, but you need your attackers to do that. That's what the attackers are there for, and that's what they've not been doing, and that's the big worry for me at the minute.
Yeah, definitely. It's something we have to address. We should have signed a prolific goal scorer 2 years ago, and we're still waiting on one. I've often referred to the fact that the combined fee for Højlund and Xerxes would have got us Harry Kane, yet we didn't really pursue that deal aggressively. But sure, there's no point in crying over spilt milk. We need to go out and get a top centre forward this summer. For the moment, we might need to shop around for a Weghorst or a Gallo in this window, but I don't know if there's any forthcoming.
No, there might be a deal to be done with someone on loan. I mean, we do need reinforcements, but the problem you've got is if there's a striker that's available, he's available for a reason. There's a reason Wout Weghorst was available. There's a reason Odion Ighalo was available. You're not going to go and get a striker who's banging in goals on loan in January. You're not going to get that because their club won't let them go. If they're banging in goals for them, they're not going to loan them out to you. So it is difficult. And it's not about just getting anyone. You don't just want to go and get any number 9. You want a number 9 who can contribute to Manchester United. The issue is it's hard to do that in January, especially if you've only got loans as an option because we haven't got any money. So yeah, I think we're gonna have to rely on the likes of Xerxes, Højlund, and Harry Maguire for our goals.
Yeah, and Martinez will throw him in there now. He's got a couple of goals in January, so and he, as I say, he's got assists too. So maybe he'll get more. And before this month, he'd only got one in his whole time in the club. I think that was away at Arsenal a couple of seasons ago in a defeat. So yeah, he's got 2 in the same month. So he'll definitely be among the contenders for the Player of the Month award at United. So Crystal Palace then at the weekend. Are you going to that game, Jay? I know you'd go for
Yeah,
the
I'll
odd
be
one.
there. Hoping that United can end our poor run at home in the Premier League. We've had some awful results, haven't we? Even the win. I don't want to be negative about the win. I keep going on about the Southampton game, but our performance was so poor in that game. So we do need to step up. Yeah. And if you want to end the idea of nerves and nervousness at Old Trafford, then the best way to do that is getting results. And I think a win against a decent Crystal Palace side, to be fair, they've got some good players, then that'd be a massive help for Ruben Amorim in this side. And just listen, it almost feels like the league is becoming irrelevant because of the fact we're not going to get. I don't even think we're going to get Europa Conference football, to be honest. I don't think we're not going to get relegated. That's just not going to happen. So you're like, okay, what have you got to really play for? Well, you've got obviously the pride to play for, and the fact that you mentioned Ayden, and the fact you should always want to win football matches, and you want to turn up for the fans, you want to turn up for yourself. Plus, even just from a financial point of view, finishing a higher up the table can make a difference in terms of the revenue you get. That might enable you to spend a little bit more money on players. So, although from a sort of a table point of view, you look at it, go, it's almost like who cares? It does matter. It matters for all the reasons I've listed. So yeah, you need to see Manchester United turning up, and if we don't, Crystal Palace are a side that have a pretty decent record against United over the last few years, so they're capable of punishing us. And I should have to think, another disappointing home result.
Yeah, I'm travelling over for the game as well, so maybe I'll get a wee
Good
5-minute
stuff.
chat with you before the game.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, I'll drop you a wee message. Whenever I'm putting, to come from Ireland, it obviously costs a lot of money to go to a game, so we better friggin' win that one.
Yeah, I don't envy you. I only have to get the tram. You have to get a flight over. So
Yeah.
my journey's a lot less arduous than yours, and nothing worse than traveling far when you watch United lose and then having to make the journey back. I've done that a few times, obviously away from Old Trafford, so I don't envy you. But hopefully it won't come to that. Hopefully you'll be travelling home with a big grin on your face because United have battered Palace.
God, I hope so. I've taken 1-0 though.
Yeah, I would, to be honest with you.
Thanks for coming on as always, Jay. It's been a pleasure. Could everybody please subscribe to the podcast and drop a like on the video if you're watching on YouTube? And Jay, yeah, it's been an honor as always.
Good chatting to you, bro, and hopefully we'll try and meet up ahead of the Palace game.
Yeah, definitely. I'm going to be getting the wee. I don't know if you know about this. There's a boat you can get from the city centre down to Old Trafford, and you can
Yeah,
have a wee pint and all on the boat. So I'm going to get. I'm going
yeah.
to get that. That's going to be
All
my
right. Well, hopefully
transport to the ground.
I'll see you. Hopefully, I'll see you when you dock then.
Yeah. I think it docks about 20 minutes before kickoff though, and so it
All right,
doesn't give you very
perfect.
long. But
All
hopefully I'll see
right.
you then.
Okay, give us a shout. Good chatting to you, Kyle.
All right, I'll see you later.